Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and today I've got this young lion with me by the name of Trace Austin. He comes from a magical music family. He's an amazing musician and artist himself, and a great, aware young man who's got some amazing things going on. We're going to talk about it. Sound good? Good. He's a great little dude. Welcome, Trace. I appreciate you.
How's everybody doing? Great to be here. Thank you for having me, Jerry.
Okay. Look, man, I see you moving around on the red carpet. We talked about your music history, your family, Otis from the Temptations, and your uncle who's produced for everybody, their cat, uncle, and dog in the industry, including Michael and Janet. And so you kind of have the musical DNA in your system. Couldn't get away from it. Probably didn't want to. Born in London and came to the United States in 5. And it's been a journey since then. So from the inside looking out, young brother, talk to me about Trace Austin.
Trace Austin is somebody, who's very worldly. I've seen many different cultures. I've been exposed to a lot at a young age in a good way. I've learned different people's lifestyles. So being in London, hearing their sound of music is so different and so ahead of us. They're like, I would say like 20 years ahead of us in music, because their sound is it's like almost techno, but even when they do, when they like have hip hop, they have pop, it's very rich. Like it's actual music versus like the US here right now. I feel like music's in a great place, but a lot of people have a trend. So they're trying to follow that, and they're trying to meet up to people's standards instead of being different, instead of standing out. So what I'm trying to do is be different, stand out. I'm trying to make music that appeals to everybody, not just one dynamic. And, I'm just trying to make a difference. I'm trying to make an impact and really tap into my artistry and be as much as a musician as I can, I'm learning piano right now. I'm reading and writing notations. I write all my songs. So I'm really, instead of just being, I don't want to be called, hey, Trace is a rapper, he's a singer. I want people to be like, he's a musician. He can do more than, like, not a lot of these people, but, he can do more. He can bring something to the table.
Okay. I respect that 100%, bro, because once they put you in a box, it's like being a child actor. If you played on the Munsters, they didn't want you to get off of anything that was outside of a Munster character. If you, played a little rascal, they would just saw you as a little rascal and not a serious actor. And
yes,
it could be a daunting task to break out of that mold. So
absolutely.
you've got a couple of great projects that you dropped off, man. The latest singles, I Need to See You, I like that. It was a real adult track. It sounded like you had some old head put it together for you. And you rode with it. I mean, on the Sonics, you know what I mean? And then your last album that dropped this year was the Offspring. It was a nice collection, man. Talk to me about the Offspring. I wanted to say what it is, but I'd rather for you to say. I thought it had to deal with coming from a musical family and some stories about that. But what was it to you?
Absolutely. Well, I really think The Offspring was one of my best projects because I came out with Canary Wharf a year or two before that. And Canary Wharf was actually the town I was from in London. So I named that after my album, and people were like, well, what's Canary? They thought it was like some kind of bird or some kind of chicken. I was like, what? No. The town I'm from in London. But a lot of people didn't know that because if you're not from there, they're not going to know, the different cities and everything. But The Offspring was one of my favorite projects because I'm working with this guy named Church Boy Scotty, and he's one of the biggest producers in LA right now. He's working with like Snoop Dogg. Just did a couple records with Little Baby, Jordan Sparks, Travis Scott. So he did most of my album, The Offspring. But when everybody heard that album, they said it was a different sound. You know, the music sounded richer, the flows that were there, it was catchy. Even the beats, and it was such a variety of music from my song Bounce, which is like a banging club hip hop beat, to my song Beautiful Lies, which is an alternative Post Malone guitar song, right? And my first song on there is featured with The Game. And a lot of people have said it's called To the Morning. And it's, about a girl. I'm like, I ain't really with telling lies. I just want you for the night. How she's telling me lies and she only wants me for who I am. But a lot of people said, this song was unique because not only did it have The Game on it, but you got The Game to get on a song that usually he wouldn't get on. Because when you hear The Game, you hear him on the West Coast tracks. You think of the Kendrick Lamars, you think of the Dr. Dre's. But when you hear him on like a chill kind of love song, it's kind of different. It blows your mind. So I definitely think The Offspring was my favorite project because it was unique in many different ways. There's many different aspects to that album.
It's pretty powerful to get The Game on something that is kind of outside of his wheelhouse. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it means to me that you're seen as an impactful player in the fabric of music. So shout out to you for that. Speaking of impact player, you have a new project, a 501c coming up called TAP. We're working on National Bully Prevention Month. And so TAP, Together All Protected, is a major anti-bullying initiative, and it's being led by this young lion right here, someone who's experienced bullying, and I can see it. You know why I can see it? Because you're a pretty boy.
Yo, exactly.
And they get jealous of the pretty boy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a pretty boy too. You can't see it now. You can't see it now. I understand that it's all jacked up now, but I used to be a pretty boy too when I was a kid, and I understand. I used to wear the perms and the S curls and all that kind of stuff, trying to be fly, and they didn't like me, and for no good reason. Oftentimes, just I don't like the way you look, so I'm going to pick on you. Talk to me about some of your experiences being bullied and how you have maintained despite those obstacles.
Well, bullying's been a problem since as long as I can remember, maybe third grade. And, I always used to have the curly hair. I always used to come to school in nice clothes. And also, I was going to private school. So I feel like part of the bullying was being a black kid in private school. Kids were like, hey, how are you able to be at the same place that I, getting my education? How are you able to make the same connections or be in the same position I'm able to be? Because, they don't want another Obama or things like that. I don't say that in a negative way, but I mean, I was short in high school, so I was bullied for my height. I was 4'11". I wasn't in sports, so that's another reason why the kids kind of targeted me, I feel like, because I wasn't the football player. I wasn't the basketball player. I wasn't the all-star athlete that people wanted me to be. I was more into the arts. I was into the music, and they were like, he's different, so he's a target. And they took my kindness for weakness, when I was young. So when you're young, you want to make friends. You want to, kind of reach out to people. And I was vulnerable. So they saw my kindness as weakness, and they as well took advantage of that. But I feel like if you're not a entertainer or an athlete in these private schools and being the color you are, if you're black, they don't want to see that. And you're going to be a target, not only by the kids, but by the teachers. So teachers will start to do stuff like, if you get into it with a kid, they'll take their side and be like, hey, step out the classroom. And those things will make you frustrated because you're like, the teacher's supposed to be someone you can run to or you can call out to help for. So if the teacher's singling you out, that's even more hurtful because you're like, listen, I didn't do anything, and you're supposed to be the person helping me. You're supposed to be the person, watching over me when I come to school. So I think that definitely the teachers, as well with grades, if you have I went through things where I had an A paper and the teachers would give me a D. So wow. The math was 100% correct, and they would just give me a bad grade just because they were like, they thought they could get away with it. But when my parents being who they are would call them out or would, tell them it's not okay or challenge them. They didn't like that. So at that point, instead of trying to resolve a situation, they were like, okay, you being smart and being black, that's a threat. So yeah.
It's a shame, but it's been that way since I can remember. I'm 59, and even before me, smart black people. I used to wear this T-shirt called "Danger, Educated Black Man." You know what I mean? And people would look at me sideways, like, "How dare you declare that you're educated?" And I was not shy about it, but I understand, people didn't like you being intelligent, being able to speak your mind and articulate clearly what you were thinking, what you were feeling, and how you were perceiving their treatment of you. And I used to be in the principal's office every other day. And it got to the point where my father, who was how would I like to say that about him? He was someone who wanted to just get along with the system and, not buck the system. He's a military dude, so he didn't want to mess up his security clearance, things like that. But eventually, he started to come around and see that this is what I was saying was a reality. How long did it take for your family to respond and begin to help you out?
My family was always in my corner from the get-go.
Okay.
My mom was definitely an advocate because they didn't want to see my mom at the school. Okay, so this is a funny story because my dad is 6'3". He's big. And so they see my dad and they see my dad and my mom. And at first they're like, okay, we don't want to deal with dad because, he's big. But my mom is the one that goes up there and is like, 'cause my dad goes up there too and, would defend me, but he was more like mild mannered, like, more chill about things. And my mom was like telling them, she was like, I'm not going to take this off of you guys. You're not going to mess with his grades. Like, I remember one time we pulled up to school and I was asking her and she was just sitting there and I was like, well, why are you just sitting out front? And she was like, no reason. And the teacher was walking into the school to go to work, had his work bags and everything. She got out the car and pulled up on him and was like, let me tell you something. And I ran in the school because so when she came up there, they did not want to see her because she would call them out. She would tell them, this isn't okay. You're messing with his grades. He's being bullied. And they would, take the other kid's side because some kids they favor. And then some of the times they just don't want to deal with it, even if they're not favoring the other kid. They don't want to deal with the issue. They just want, they're like, oh, figure it out. Kids are going to be kids. But that's not always the case. So I feel like a problem that we have, and this is about Together All Protected, what I want to do. I want to make teachers more aware, and I want teachers to reach out to the kids, talk to them, bring them in for lunchtime, or pull them aside one-on-one. If they're calling out to you, don't just ignore it because, that's when issues get bigger.
Yeah, and when you have people who start to hold things inside, and it festers and becomes an internal disease and comes out oftentimes in violent actions or non-productive actions that hurt other people and themselves. Yeah. So, one of the biggest fallouts from bullying, of course, is suicide of our youth. And these are the people that old people like me have to look forward to protecting me in my old age and when I'm not able to care for myself. But if they aren't comfortable with themselves, they aren't able to take care of themselves, they're not going to be available to take care of the elders and keep society going, things like that. So talk to me about what TAP plans to offer as far as tools and resources in dealing with bullying and things like that.
So TAP will offer, self-defense classes. And I'm not saying that like I condone fighting back or, violence.
No, condone fighting back. Yeah, condone fighting back. The hell with that.
Fighting back, but violence. I don't condone violence, but condone fighting back because at some point, you have to defend yourself. So I feel like it's good to have your hands and being able to, navigate through that and have discipline, right? So we'll provide self-defense classes. There will be, suicide prevention that will be provided as well. We'll provide not only the kids, but the parents as well with resources. If they have an interest in music, if they have an interest in acting, maybe give them some acting classes or, build a facility where they can do what they love, like what they have a passion for, right? Where say the same kids that are being bullied, they can come together and connect because they might have the same interests. And if they're different, they can relate to each other. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be an environment where one kid is like a sports kid, so he's going to pick on the kid who's in the band, right? It could be some kids that are together that have an interest in the same thing,
I think that's an awesome program layout. As kids, we all want to belong and have friends and groups that we're accepted in, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And, if you're not one of the cool kids, like you said, the sports players and this, that, and the third, if they're picking on you because you're in the freaking chess club or something like that. But within that chess club, within the theater department and things like that are groups of people who are like-minded and support each other. And to have more programs and outlets like that, I think is key to the success of the development of our next generation. So shout out to you. That's dope. What have you put in place thus far? Is the nonprofit already live? Have you begun the process? Where are you at with it?
So the nonprofit's already live. I'm starting the launch. So I'm actually beginning it. So it's not live, but I'm starting the launch. I'm really trying to get, people's attention because I want to hear people's stories, right? So when I reach out to people, I've even got some responses like, I've gone through that same thing. I encourage people, reach out to us, tell us your story, see if we can help you with anything. So right now, that's what I'm in the process of doing, is launching it.
Okay. What type of support have you gotten from the outside world thus far?
I would say a lot of people. I'd say some people I know and some people that are new. Still, it's fairly new, so I'm getting more and more people. But so far, the response has been pretty good.
Okay. What's been the most satisfying part for you about being able to create this organization and gaining, slowly but surely, the organic support that you need to move forward?
I would say to hear people's stories and to like put a smile on people's faces. Like if I haven't put a smile on your face or you don't feel inspired, I'm doing something wrong. I want to make sure that I inspire other kids to do what they want to do and let them know, like, listen, no one can tell you you can't do it. And if you're being bullied, there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, I like that outlook. So in support of National Bullying Prevention Month and in support of TAP, you're coming up with a new song that you're going to release called My Story. Talk to me about the new song.
Yes, so My Story will be released next week. And it'll be basically touching on just be you. Like the chorus is my story, time after time, every single chance. This is not who I am. So that's basically touching on I've given them time after time and every single chance to prove themselves of being, somewhat decent to me. But you've fallen through every time. Like I've gave you chances. You haven't proved yourself. You've been the same person. Picked on me. You've talked about me just because I'm different. You can't break me down. Persevered through it. So it's basically touching on that. Don't let anybody get you down. You can do what you want, and it will get better. People will mature as they go along, and then they'll realize once they get older, man, I don't even know why I did that. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, we do mature and become embarrassed about some of our actions as a youth.
Absolutely.
I have looked at myself in the mirror and said, I can't believe you did that. And I live with that all my life, you know. But so, young brother, as you navigated this maze and become a personality, like I said, we've seen you on red carpets from here to there and this, that, and the third. As you started to become a more recognizable personality, what has been the biggest surprise for you about this business that you're in?
Well, I would say I've been around it from a young age. I've seen some things already, but I would say now, I'm seeing a lot more and just seeing different people. I would say just the variety of people that are in the industry, like how many, um, to fashion designers, to hip hop people, like music artists, to you know, actors, just the variety of people and how they live and their lifestyle and just their personality. Like just meeting some of the people, I would say is like the biggest surprise to me because I like instead of seeing people on TV, if I see them in person, I see their personality and how they move or how they act on a regular.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises for me was how down to earth so many big names are. You know what I mean? They
Absolutely.
just want to be talked to like people and don't always want to talk music. You know, let's talk about fishing. I, you know, learned some things about from Bob that I'm like, what? Really? You're into that? He likes to barbecue and this, that, and the third. I'm like, okay, we talked about smoke rings on
Oh
meat.
wow, the rapper Bob.
Yeah, yeah. It
Oh
was
wow, that's dope.
it was crazy, you know. I'm like, oh wow, you just really want to be a real person and be accepted for that. Entertainment is what you do; it's not who you are. And
Yeah.
so that was really cool. Um, you've got a lot of music out there, and your fan base is growing exponentially. Um, have you had like a real touching interaction or engagement with a supporter that maybe changed your day and says, wow, I'm really doing something good here and I'm touching people? Can you recall one?
I would definitely say there was a couple. I did a performance once, and I had, a lot of people. They were like, yelling my name. They were like reaching out to give me high fives. So I was walking and dapping the crowd up. Another one I would say was I was filming my music video. It was like late at night too, and somebody was driving. It was like what 9 o'clock at night, and they were driving and they recognized me. Right, they were
Hmm.
like, "Prince Austin," and I was like shocked because I was like, "Huh?" Like it just kind of took me aback, took me by surprise. And then they're just like, I always see your stuff on Instagram. I just wanted to say, like big fan of yours. Just keep doing what you're doing because you're definitely changing things. So that was really like touching. That made my night. Made my night. So I was like, that's really great that someone else is enjoying what I'm doing because that's what I'm doing it for. I want to touch people. I want to appeal to everybody and give people inspiration to do what they want to do and do what they love.
Okay. All right, bro. So, as part of your activities in the media, you've been in front of microphones from everybody and on videos with everybody and just talking to journalists. Has there been a question that we as journalists have neglected to ask you that you've always wanted to answer?
I would say a lot of the journalists I've talked to have asked me most of the questions that I want to answer. I love when people ask me who would you love to like to collaborate with, and I like the OGs like Pharrell. I like Kendrick Lamar. Um, so when people ask me those questions, they do. I'm even shocked sometimes because they know a lot already going into it about me, which means they've done their research, which I respect that they've done their research. They're able to come with key points. So that's definitely been pretty dope talking to journalists. They know a lot about my background, and I'm like, well, how do you know that?
Because you got a great team. And
Yeah,
they make sure
absolutely. Killer
they make
team.
sure that we're informed, and you're out there, and you're doing a great job on your social media. I try not to follow you young people too much, because y'all are all over the place
Yeah.
and got way too much energy. But you have a magnificent storyline going on your social media, and so it's interesting to watch what you do. And of course, Melissa is amazing, and she has you in the right spots at the right times, and in front of the right people. So
Yes, most definitely.
I think you're going to be somebody we'll be talking about for years and years and years. And I wish you much success with TAP. I think it's a very important initiative, and certainly I'd be glad to back you editorially. However, as your announcements come out and your initiatives start to go live and you become more active with that, certainly keep me in the loop, and we'll support, of course. Last but not least, bro, what so far has been your funniest like WTF moment? Something that just made you roll on the floor, like this could not have happened.
There's been a couple, but this was a really funny one I'm gonna tell you about. So I was in the studio recording my song Mosh. My song Mosh was on the Canary Wharf album. It's a single on Apple Music and all platforms. And I was with my engineer, so he got there, and there was this guy that was sitting in the studio, right? So I didn't think anything of it. I was like, he probably knows him, so that's probably his friend. So mid session, and the guy is on the couch. He's kind of like high, so he's like just kind of staring at us, zoning out. He's on the couch, sleep, and he was like looking menacingly, like he had like a look in his eyes where he was looking at us, but he was very like aggressive. So we were like kind of like skeptical. We were like scared, kind of, and then we were like, he was like, "Oh, you guys brought your friend to the studio?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, this is your friend, right?" He was like, "I have no idea of this man. I do not know him or anything."
Wow.
Like, what? And he was on the couch sleep at this point. So I'm in the booth, and then everybody starts running out the studio because they don't know him. They leave me in the booth, and he's in the room, and I'm like, "Hey, y'all left me behind." They left me behind. He was just like, just slumped on the couch. And I was like, had to make a get go. And the engineer came in. He was like, "Come on, come on." The engineer was this skinny African dude. And so we were like, "Listen, if this man gets up from off the couch, none of us can take him on. So we're doomed. We got to get out of here quietly." So, and we were like, "Who's gonna wake him up to tell him to leave?" Because we hadn't finished the session yet. So we all run out, and then we go to the car, and then he said, "Okay, I'm gonna go back in and tell him he has to leave." So he goes back in and tells him, "Hey, you gotta leave." And then he's walking outside. He's like looking for us. We went back in, and we were like, that was a crazy moment. But it was funny because I look back on it now and I laugh. But it was definitely a WTF moment.
Oh, they would have never lived that down, leaving me behind. No, I'd have been talking about that forever. You left me behind, y'all scary
Yep,
asses.
exactly.
I tell you what, man. All right, man. It's been a pleasure meeting you and talking to you. I look forward to supporting what you are doing. I wish you much continued success. And let's tell them where they can find you everywhere.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at the Trace Austin, Trace Austin on all platforms, and TraceAustinMusic.com is where you can keep updated to everything I got going on. And thank you, Jerry. I really appreciate you for having me. It was a great conversation. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to telling you about my future endeavors.
I look forward to it as well. All right, everybody. The Hype Magazine live sessions. This has been Trace Austin. Check out and stay tuned for his new 501c anti-bullying nonprofit called TAP, and his new joint coming out next week in support of National Bullying Prevention Month called My Story. Go check him out on Spotify. He's got some great music. He's a great talent. And stay tuned. You'll see him on carpets around. You'll see him on new segments around as he continues to grow. So it's been a real pleasure to have you. Wishing you much continued success. And until next time, we're out.